Welcome to P English Literature, a YouTube channel that conveys Amazon, Goodread, blog, and video book reviews coupled with interviews with authors. It's a perfect channel for book lovers, authors, and writers generally. P English Literature, the exact channel for you and me. Hi there, viewers. Today, I'm joining a conversation with Stephen E. Thress, the author of Horsemen of the Great Metropolis. It's a pleasure to have Mr. Stephen on the show. Hi there, Mr. Stephen.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, thanks for having me on your show, and thanks for the opportunity to speak to a larger forum of people. And I know that you've got a growing following, so this is great for me as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you. So without wasting much time, I'd love to move straight into the interview. And, I want to ask you, how do you come about writing For Horsemen of the Great Metropolis? Because when I read the book, I found it absolutely intriguing. It's very captivating and absorbing. And I was looking forward to asking you how this book come about. I mean, what inspired this book?
Well, Peter, it came to me. I had come home from work, had dinner, I had gone to bed and fully asleep. And it seemed like about, a little bit after 11 p.m. out here in California.
Okay.
I woke up, but I was still asleep. And I found myself floating out in space.
Wow.
And I don't know whether it's a out-of-body experience or what in the world it really was.
Wow.
But I did see myself out there in space. I felt myself actually out there, like you and I are talking right now. That's how real being out there was. And from that, everything else just came afterwards, from floating out there looking down at the earth to the right of me. And then I looked around in space, the dark space, and then stared out to the left of me. And the longer I stared, I got drawn towards what I saw was this huge structure out in space. And the closer I got to it, then it became more real. And I saw what it actually was a giant horseshoe structure out there in space. And so from that experience and being able to be drawn inside the structure itself, seeing what was in there, seeing people in there, and then from there, traveling down through the structure and seeing what was in there. And I just, after seeing all that inside, found myself back outside the structure, and then felt myself inside a spacecraft of some sort, traveling to the future. And then from there, the rest of the dream continued until such a time that I didn't want the dream to end. I know I'm jumping ahead of what you asked me, but all this inspired me because it was so real to me. And to this day, I can still recall very vividly aspects of the dream, what became of it, and what I saw. And it's amazing. And so because of that, I felt compelled to do something about it and to write this book the best I could. Now, I do regret that I didn't write more about the space structure and the things that were being done on Earth to complete this, to become the Great Metropolis. Because in starting this book should have been about 880 pages.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how much information I left out. But I've tried to add more of the information onto my blog on my website to explain a little bit more about how this all works and Ultimately, I would love to show the world all of this. I would love to take them on that trip with me, that dream with me, and show them everything in a movie, in a major motion picture. And I do truly believe once the world saw this, that they would jump on board and get this done, and we clean up the earth. And from there, once the earth is cleaned up, no pollution, we're controlling the environment, we're controlling the weather, like a climate controlled environment, which we can't accomplish really.
Yeah.
If the naysayers get out of the way. But I had to. And I felt that if I didn't write this book and share it with the world, because I think it was given to me to share, I felt like that, I'm not really a firm believer in the Bible or hell. I don't think it exists, but still I felt a tremendous guilt if I didn't.
Wow, that sounds very fascinating, because you said you had a dream, and probably, or let me say definitely, it was through the dream that inspired the making of For Horsemen of the Great Metropolis, right?
Right.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you another question, but it's a bit different from what I planned initially. I'm sorry about this, but while I read this book, the name of the character called Eugene, I was going to ask you, I don't know if your name, Stephen E. Thress, if E there represents Eugene, or is it something like, it's about yourself, or it's just like a fictitious character on itself?
No, it's about me. My middle name is Eugene. I just tried to change the character so that it didn't use my name.
Oh.
But yes, my initials are SET, which ironically, a lot of people say, well, what's in a name? Well, if you take my initials, SET, I don't know if you ever heard of an organization called SETI.
No, I haven't.
That's Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. It's just ironic that my initials are SET. Probably nothing to it, but
Wow, that's fascinating. When I read it, I was like, at some point, I was like, is it talking about himself? I was like, okay, I'm going to ask him about this. Okay, I want to move into the next question, Mr. Steven. There's a quote that I found absolutely profound while I read your book, and that was written in page 49. I want to read it out now. It reads that, the earth will survive long after humans are dead. I found this quote touching. It is, challenging and heart-piercing. Though I stylishly understand what you meant by this, what they're trying to communicate by this, but I'd love you to, expound more on this thing. I want you to particularly shed more light on this quote: the earth will survive long after humans are dead. Could you please, expound more on this quote?
Well, there's several thoughts to that. I mean, even in the Bible, it says, or for biblical people, scholars, that the earth will survive long after humans kill themselves off, or the rapture. So in my context of writing it like that, I gave us a choice. I wrote it as a choice for the people to understand that we can do something to correct all of our miscues here that we've done to this earth, heal it. And once we heal it, then I do believe that the rapture will happen, and that people that want to go out and colonize other planets, they can do that. They will voluntarily, and the people that want it, wish to remain here on Earth, they'll be, salt of the earth, or the people that want to stay here and cultivate and remain with a healthy planet to carry on this world right now. If it's not curbed, if we do not come to our senses, that we could actually destroy ourselves with either nuclear or even entirely blow up this planet to disintegrate it, which I hope that doesn't happen or even come close to that.
That's fascinating. was quite very fascinating. I actually know that, some of the problems that we human, some of the problems that we have on Earth today, it's based on what we human being caused. It can be traced to, activity, like I said in my review. Okay, I want to move into the next question, Mr. Stephen. And I want to ask you, could you tell us about Eugene's The Great Metropolis? Just like I mentioned in my review, that if the Great Metropolis is ever going to be possible, then I think it's going to be a great invention. But I'd love to hear from you as the author. What is your opinion of Eugene's Great Metropolis? Do you see it as a mere fictional phenomenon or something that can actually be invented in real life?
I'm a true believer in that this can and must actually happen.
Wow.
And like I said, what I saw out there in space, it already exists, whether it has to be in the future. So, because it's certainly not in the present right now. But I do know that the technology, I mean, from Elon Musk and, these other great minds out there,
Yeah.
they have the capability, the funds, the knowledge that let's fix up this Earth first and then go out and colonize other planets. The importance of this can't be overemphasized because, all it's been doing all these years is talk, talk, talk. And in my research of researching this dream to see, wow, I want to make sense of this and I want to see how plausible it is. It was fascinating. It was truly fascinating. I mean, from finding out what DARPA was doing with the Air Force, trying to make it rain and shooting rockets up into the atmosphere, from planes flying around, seeding the atmosphere to try to make it rain, like in Saudi Arabia and whatever else. That's like throwing a pea in the ocean and trying to create a tidal wave. Wow. If you want to face something face on, front on, plant these up into the atmosphere and then on up into the troposphere. Then you're up in there where you can truly affect the atmosphere and the troposphere. You can go up and affect the weather patterns with these. So yes, I fully believe in it can be done. That this is borderline right now science fiction, but it also can become reality, which a lot of science fiction does sometimes become reality.
Yes. And that's one of the things I love about some movies. All the science fiction novel, some of them, if some filmmakers see that, it's very impactful, like it's something that is quite imaginable, though it's imaginable, but it's something that they feel that it can be invented. They try their possible best to turn it into a movie. And that's why you see a lot of movie under the genre of science fiction. That's why you always see some movie under the genre of crime fiction. And I was like, like I said, I mentioned it in my review that if the Great Metropolis is ever going to be possible, then I am going to be an ardent supporter of it because it's one of those things that's going to save humanity and bring peace to the world. And I need to thank you for that. Thank you so much for writing for Horsemen of the Great Metropolis.
Like I said, I think it's a necessary message. It's a positive message. All these things that are out there now in the movies are showing killing, robbing, raping, murder, all negative stuff. And I think, a lot of that is implanting in people's minds that that's all there is. And they're gearing up to do just that instead of stopping and start creating positive messages to the world, and that we can overcome the prejudices, the negativism, everything else that is bad and holding us back as a human race. Let's show the universe actually that we have a right to exist, that we can exist, we can thrive, and we can accomplish things far beyond all of this negative stuff. Let's turn it around and let's get on the right track, the positive track.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. So I also want to ask you, there's a quote in page 77 in your book that I underlined, and I was going to get back to you and ask you about it. It reads that society today has a deep-seated prejudice about race, color, sexual preferences, and religious belief. If anyone follows the news, either local, national, or YouTube channels, they can see the fighting continues to escalate rapidly. I find this quote profound in meaning. I know because I know it's something that our world baffles with today. I find it extremely deep, and I'd love you to expand more on it.
Yes, thank you, Peter. Basically, all of the media, all the things that divide us as a human race is being used to divide us. I mean, race, color, creed, status. Now it's the pandemic thing.
Yeah.
If, for instance, if you just take a second or a minute, and in your mind, you remove the things that divide us as a human race. I mean, remove politics, remove government, remove
Nationality.
prejudice,
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
We just remove it from your thoughts. The only thing left there is humanness.
Yeah.
That's the one uniting factor that we all have in common, that in our DNA, which was given to us by our Creator. When we were born, we came into this world with the DNA. And that gave us everything we needed to know and to survive and thrive in this world. So remove those negative things, and I'm telling you, you're going to find some peace. But when you start putting those things back into your mind and your thought process, then you start getting stressed out, and then it's awful. And we're being conditioned to live that way. That is so wrong.
That's very true. I love the idea about this because when I read it, I was like, it is true. It is very true. And I wish that we humans can understand this. If we can remove, color, if we can remove religion belief, if we can remove all those sort of things that seems to tear us apart, we will be left with human, like you said, and the world will have been a little bit easy for us to live in. And when I read this part in your book, I was like, this is very, very true. It's a fact that every human being needs to know. And it's like a technique that will bring in or will bring out the humanity factor, the human factor in every one of us. I was also going to ask you, what's your opinion about being a fiction writer? Oh, now I get to know that this is a little bit, but you wrote in your book that it's actually a fiction, novel. But I was going to ask you, was it an easy task for you to write a fiction novel? Or you found it engrossing and difficult?
At first, I was intimidated, okay, because I'm one that I have great thoughts that come to me, and I never do anything with them. I never, ever do, or I don't follow through on them. This time I had no option. I had to. So this is the first. But I think that in order for people to learn on in this world, everybody's different, but they're all human. I think people should write. I should encourage as many people, even if they've had a tough life, those experiences could impact and people learn from that, either to avoid or to feel encouraged. Say, hey, there's somebody out there like me going through what I'm going through now. So I just learned something that I'm not alone in this. So yes, I encourage everyone to share and to write their thoughts and things down.
That's actually true. But that's one of the things I so much love about people that write autobiographies. That's one of the things I love about people that write down their experience, be it a good one or the sad one, because it would help any other person reading it to be able to empathize, put themselves in the shoe of the author, and relate it to their own personal life, that they might find it sometimes communicating hope, trying to impact their life, and they can also learn from it eventually. And I need to say thank you about that too. So
Well, that's why I was drawn to you, is because listening to your reviews and the way that you got into people's characters,
yeah,
and the way you did interviews. It's amazing. You do an amazing job, Peter. And all I can do is encourage you 1,000% to continue in what you're doing. And I mean, I'm telling you, your impact is immeasurable right now.
wow,
You
thank
have
very much.
really only begin to scratch the surface of who you're going to reach and the viewership and everything else. So I'm 1,000% behind you, man, right there with you.
Thank you so much for that. So I also observe that one of the messages in this book is the fact that it aims to preach and bring unity to the world. It aims to eradicate every form of racism and unite us together.
Yeah, okay. I think we're getting buffered here, but I think that, again, in my thought process is that quit looking at the things that divide us and look at the commonality we have,
Yeah,
the commonality factor. That is something you can't deny. Is that we're humans and we all have our own DNA, which is a
yeah,
design natural ability. Here's a bothers me. If the next person that gets murdered or killed because of their belief or their thoughts, what if that person that got killed has an answer to solve a major problem in the world? But
exactly.
they won't be able to because they're here no longer. So everyone has value. We're all born in this world. We're all created in this world, the same unique characteristics. That's where it is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thank you very much for that. I was also going to ask you, Mr. Stephen, what book should we expect next? Are you currently working on another publication? If yes, can you give us a brief, sneak of it? That'll be fine.
Right now, I think my focus is on this book and trying to connect with a movie company.
Okay.
So most of my focus is on this book. However, you touched on something when we spoke a little while ago about something I wrote in college. And ironically enough, the title was The Night the Sky Burned. And I'm talking 40 years ago when I was in college.
Wow.
So it's a long time ago in the 70s, with the atmosphere being so polluted and so much chemical up in the sky, and somebody shot a rocket and it exploded up in the atmosphere and it ignited the atmosphere and the burn. The atmosphere caught fire.
Wow.
So, here's another environmental thing 40 years ago that I had a thought process about. And then this comes to me in 2016 in a dream, this book. I think there's messages there that shouldn't be overlooked. And I think these people that keep saying, oh, well, there's no climate change, there's no concern, you shouldn't worry, you shouldn't do anything about it, it's all natural. I'm here to say that that's not so. What's to prevent us from controlling our own environment? In my research, I saw in there where we can create our own atmosphere. Do you realize that? We can do things to change our atmosphere. I mean, come on. Why not? Why not create a perfect climate controlled atmosphere for us to live in, free of pollution? Clean up the water. The earth, it's overreacting by volcanoes and tornadoes, hurricanes. So not everything else is that it's telling us, hey, clean up our act here. We're all here as one body, so clean it up.
That's true. I love that. I love that idea about that. So there's a statement too that I found counteracting my intuition in page 261. The statement read, a society is stagnating because of a false belief in an almighty God who controls everything and everyone. I found this statement deep. And like I stated in my review earlier, that I don't know if it's a literary style that aim at fictitiously creating contemplation in the heart of the reader, or it is intentional from you, the author. And I'd love to hear from you. Could you please illustrate or explain to us what you meant by this statement?
My thought process on this.
Okay.
We were brought into this world with everything we needed, our DNA. We were created by a creator. That's where I'm going with this. So we are created beings, and if we're going to honor the creator, we should be creating. Okay. So we were given our DNA. We were told that we were known while we were in the womb. So that means we existed prior to being born, and will exist once we pass through here because of our essence. Okay, that'll live on. Okay, that's my thinking. Now, I'm of the firm belief that before there was a church, before there was religion, before there was government, there was us. So somewhere along the line, somebody conceived or got the bright idea, hey, why don't we form a coalition or a group of people and, say, hey, come and meet and join and whatever, and we will grow from that. Yeah. So I believe in my heart of hearts that the church is not the spokesman for the creator. The governments aren't. And religion, all it's ever done is have wars over thousands of years. The governments haven't corrected the problems here on earth because nothing gets solved. But people are still handing out money hands over fist to those organizations and not getting anything accomplished or completed. So this great metropolis, what I saw, how it completed everything that the earth needed to do to fix itself. This is the only thing that I have seen that will unite humanity. It will get everybody involved. They'll get to partake in doing this, so they'll be a part of it and seeing it being accomplished. Whereas these other organizations, so you've got to vote this way, you've got to believe this way, you've got to think this way, or you're nothing. And that's wrong. That's wrong. They're excluding, they're divisive. So inclusive thing for the world and all the people that live within it. And they can all participate in it. The ones that can physically work, even have a plan for the homeless people, sign contracts with them, send them to these places where they're going to need to build desalination plants and aqueducts and stuff to feed water to the deserts. So they get water to the deserts and grow crops. Have Doctors Without Borders there, temporary shelter, food. All that can be accomplished, and humans do have value. And just because you're homeless, or if you're some political party member, everyone has value. Everybody can accomplish, and everybody wants and felt that they're important. So, Peter, I look past the noise and the hatred and the division, and what I see is us coming together and accomplishing and getting this great metropolis built. And I can tell you that at the end of this, what I saw was
Yeah.
nothing but more than bliss, happiness, unity, people celebrating the planting and the harvesting seasons, and the accomplishments that mankind got done, and it was amazing.
Yeah. Very
Beautiful
amazing.
thing to see. A
Yeah.
beautiful thing to see.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. I love that. Thank you so much for the answer to that question. That's very, very amazing. Okay, Mr. Stephen, while I read through your book, I sense that you have a distinctive techniques of storytelling. I mean, your author's tone is quite excellent, and the setting of your novel is superb. And I'd like to know if you take this straight after a particular author. If yes, I'd like to know the name of the author and how the author's writing style influenced yours.
In college, or even in high school,
Yeah.
there was an author that I really enjoyed tremendously. It was a science fiction author. His name was Isaac Asimov.
Oh,
An amazing storyteller, an amazing view to other worlds and the possibilities. And I also am intrigued by the author Dan Brown.
wow.
And I know this is a little bit controversial, this book. It's I don't intend it to be anything but a positive message to the world. But there are people, my family members, one of my family members can't stand this because they're so enmeshed in what they believe and in their faith that they cannot for a moment accept that anything else is possible, even though nothing for all these thousands of years has been accomplished other than lip service. But that's that's
Wow.
our difference of opinion.
Wow. That's very serious. Okay, I was also going to ask you, Mr. Stephen, could you tell us what publishing is like for an author like yourself? What are the challenges you encountered in terms of marketing your book? And what are the mediums you've utilized so far in terms of promoting for Horsemen of the Great Metropolis?
Well, since I'm an independent author,
Yeah.
my resources, financial resources, are very limited. I find a lot of headwind out there, but I have tried. I actually had my book put into the New York Times bestseller list.
Wow.
I've tried a company called Thress, where just recently in Utah, my book was there displayed at the American Association of School Librarians. I was hoping that this book could get into the school libraries and in America and Canada as a start. And I think that if I could get this book out to the world,
Yeah.
in any way, any venue possible, I will do it. So, again, you're helping, and I appreciate it. I really do. I mean, I advertise my book on LinkedIn, Instagram, pass out business cards.
Fascinating. I'm happy to know about that.
Anytime anything else comes up that I can get my book out there,
Wow.
I will take a look at it and try to do it.
Wow, that's great. I was also going to ask you, is there anything like a message or information that you would love to share with the viewers about four horsemen of the great metropolis that I didn't mention in my interview and you have felt that the viewers should know about? If there's any message like that, you are free to share with us.
Well, certainly. In order for me to finalize actually knowing that this four horsemen of the great metropolis
Yeah.
can be accomplished, my research, I found out that yes, this can be accomplished, but at the end, and I think it's biblical that where you'll see signs, in the water, in the earth, and in the sky. Well, the four horsemen, the horseshoe shape, if you take that horseshoe shape and you put the four of them end to end, look at it from a distance, it actually looks like a four-leaf clover. It represents the shape of a four-leaf clover. Well, on the earth, there are four-leaf clovers growing in the grass. In fact, I've found probably 3 or 4 in my lifetime. But then when you go into the water, in the ocean, there's things like the jellyfish, their membrane is in the same particular shape of a clover leaf, and also the four horsemen of the great Metropolis. And then you have also the horseshoe crab, which is another symbol, so to speak, that shows earth, water, and the air. So I think those combinations, those symbols, pretty much convinced me that I'm on the right track. And I would encourage anybody that wants to know more about this is to do research on their own. And I have a lot of research reference in the book, and they can go to DARPA, fascinating government agency, by the way. And, there's check out how to create atmosphere. And you'll see that I'm pretty much spot on about this. And I would love to have a conference of scientists and people that can bring this about and meet with them. And I don't want naysayers, though. I don't want negative people that say we can't. I'd much rather have people that say we can do this. I mean, look at all the great structures built in the world, the bridges, the buildings, the planes, the aircraft. So anyway, that's my encouragement to the readers. Anybody that's, I think the school systems themselves, they need to be changed. The teaching curriculum needs to be emphasized to where agriculture and people, to learn structural design for building these aqueducts and enclosing them so the dust and dirt doesn't get into the water canals, and then the desalination plants. And then ultimately, what I saw was the world is powered by nuclear.
Wow. That's true.
And in my research again, I looked and found that thorium, thorium, nuclear, is one of the safest nuclear powers in the world.
Wow.
And it doesn't pollute. It's quiet. It's clean.
Wow, that's amazing. I was also going to ask you, Mr. Stephen, as a published author, what sort of advice that you have for writers who are still struggling with completing a novel like yours? What kind of advice do you have for writers who are yet to complete their novel and probably they might be discouraged or something like that? What sort of advice do you have for them to keep them doing, getting it out there for people to read?
One advice I'd have is don't listen to the negativity.
Yeah.
The idea that they have, or whatever it is that encourages them to write in the first place, is important, or they wouldn't have it. They wouldn't have started it. So complete what they started, because it is important and it's there for a reason. It's inside you, it's in your DNA. Bring it out. Let your light shine, so to speak. Have on whatever it is you write, you don't know. It's immeasurable. So I'd say get her done, like some people say.
That's good. Thank you very much for your advice, and I truly appreciate it. So viewers, we've just spoken to Stephen A. Thress, who is the author of Four Horsemen of the Great Metropolis. I reviewed this book some week past, and it's a pleasure to speak with the author. And you've just heard him speak about this book, discuss some of the intrinsic part of it. And I need to say thank you to Mr. Stephen for accepting the invitation to the Future of English Literature. The book is currently available for purchase on Amazon. I left a link in the description part of this interview if you would like to get a copy directly on Amazon. Thank you very much, Mr. Stephen, for accepting the invitation to be featured on English Literature. I really appreciate it.
And Peter, and again, thank you. Like I said, you're very important, and can't emphasize it enough. So I'll leave you with that, and we will stay in touch. We will definitely stay in touch.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, you're very welcome. And thank you once again.